Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday night edition of USA Hockey's Officiating Zoomcasts. My name is Scott Zelkin, and I'll be your host this evening as we cover the topic of getting started. What do new officials need to do, or actually new individuals need to do in order to become an official and get on the ice with us here at USA Hockey? Joining me this evening, we have two experts in the field. Two people to kind of talk about that process, what to expect, what they need, and all of that good stuff. And I'd like to introduce them to all of us right now, or to all of you. Our first guest is Annette Lin. Annette has been a USA Hockey official for 28 years on the ice with us, and she is also currently the Washington State District Referee in Chief. So she's out working with new officials all the time, helping them get going. So Annette, welcome to the Zoomcast.
Thanks, I'm happy to be here.
Great, and so we've got the Pacific Northwest covered, and now we're gonna slide all the way over to the East Coast, and joining us is Barry Zalcman. Barry is the District Referee in Chief for the New England District, which covers a multitude of states up in the Northeast. Barry has been an official with USA Hockey for 41 years. Starting in 1981, for those of you doing the math at home. And he's been, as part of that, now he's in his fourth year as the referee in chief for the New England District. So Barry, welcome to the Zoomcast.
Thank you for the invitation, Scott.
Yeah, and so, Barry and Annette are gonna talk about all things getting going with officiating. But before we do that, we're gonna throw out a few poll questions just to kind of get you going, get our audience going, for those of you at home, on what to expect coming up next year, and also just a few things to start thinking about that entry phase into officiating. So I'm going to share a poll question. We'll give it about a minute for everybody to answer, and you should all be able to see these three true or false questions on your screen. First question is for next season, the 22-23 season. Officials will have the option to attend either a virtual or in-person seminar. Is that true or false? Also, the next question for next season, all officials will have to pass both an open and a closed book exam, much as they have had to do in the past. Is that true or false? And then finally, new officials, so those officials that are just getting going, they can learn just as much from watching other officials work as they can from being on the ice themselves. So this is interesting as I can see the results rolling in. They're kind of bouncing back and forth. So these are some good questions here. And if nothing else, we'll be able to make a little bit of news and help everybody know what to expect for next year. And I'm going to guess, Annette, you're already in the planning stages for registration and getting officials going for next season. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We're already trying to look at dates and try to make arrangements with arenas so that we can get in there before all the practice slots are taken, so that we can get our seminars rolling.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to give it about 10 more seconds here, and then we'll share the results.
Yeah, just like Annette said, when you're starting that, we have 750 new level ones next year in the district. So like she said, you have to get out in front of that and buy that ice now, otherwise you'll be in trouble.
No, for sure. Okay, so we've got some good results here, and I'm going to share them. So you should all be able to see the results. So for next season, officials are going to have the option to attend either a virtual or an in-person seminar. 86% of you said that is true, and that is correct. And even in what we hope is a normal hockey season with COVID stepping to the side, even our new level one officials are going to have the ability to attend a virtual seminar that will have an in-person component, but everybody else will have the choice of virtual or in-person seminars. So, USA Hockey's working really hard to try and make the registration process a little bit more streamlined, and that's one of the ways. The next one, next season, all officials will have to pass both an open book and closed book exam. We're split pretty close down the middle here, 36-65%. And those that said false are correct. So next year, all officials are only going to have to take and pass one exam, regardless of your level. You're going to have to take one exam, and Barry, that exam is going to be done in an online fashion. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So it'll be an online, so you get to use your rule book to go look at the rules. We want you to be able to have that ability to, see go through the rule book and understand that, but it will be an open book forum.
Yeah. So that's no more 2 exams, just one. And depending on levels, will be however many questions are in your exam or how many questions you have to answer correctly. And then finally, and this is really meant to kind of kick off our talk about being a new official and what it's like to be a new official. New officials can learn just as much from watching other officials work as they can from being on the ice. And I would say that, and I know both Barry and Annette would agree with this one, that it is true that the 79% of you that said true, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but actually this question, it should say all officials can learn just as much from watching other officials work as they can themselves from being on the ice. So, that those poll questions kind of meant to get us talking about officiating, what it's like. And for those of you watching at home, some of you may be relatively experienced, while others of you may be in your first or second year. And hopefully a couple of you are just thinking about becoming an official next year. So with that, let's begin the process. So, all right, I wake up one day and I decide I want to be a referee. So what do I do? So do I just go down to the rink and say, hey, I want to be an official? Barry, what do I do when I wake up and I say, I want to be a hockey official? What's the first step? What are we thinking about?
Well, I love when you get officials like that, because they do it for so many reasons. That's always the first question I ask at a seminar. I say, why are you here? And some of them are here for money. Some of them are here because of fitness. Some are giving back to the game, and some of them want to go down the path from a development standpoint. So there's no wrong answer. I mean, for whatever reason why you want to become an official is awesome. Really, the first thing you want to do is you want to jump on USA Hockey, and you need to register as an official. And a lot of players are also become officials, but they say, hey, I'm already registered as a player. Do I have to register as an official separately? And the answer is yes. You have to register separately as a player, separately as an official. Even if you're a coach, you have to be a coach, and you have to sign up separately as an official. And I think the next big thing is you want to go look out for your seminars. You want to be able to identify exactly where your seminars are going to be, and you want to try to get on the path of trying to sign up for a seminar, whether it be virtual, Scott, like you said, or whether it be a combination of live and virtual.
Right. And Annette, when we talk about going online to usahockey.com, can you talk about, okay, so you know what? I'm 16 years old. Mom and dad have been all over me about getting a job. And what's a great job where you can practice your skating, because maybe you're also playing, and make a little bit of money, is being an official. So when you get on that website, is there a spot that you click on and you're like, I think it says what? Become a member? Because mom and dad maybe are registering me as a player, so I don't even look at that stuff. But if I have to get a job, I have to register. So what am I going to do?
So hopefully you're going to USA Hockey and you're like, oh, there's this tab at the top. If you're on a computer, if you're on a mobile device, it's a little more clunky, but if you're on a computer, there's a tab at the top that says officials, and then you're going to click on that. And then you've got all these options underneath. And one of them is how to register as an official. And in that area, there's a whole bunch of components. There's the membership registration component that Barry talked about earlier. Then there's also, you need to get your login created as an official through the USA Hockey website, so that you can start accessing things like the modules and your open book tests that are coming your way pretty quickly once you get registered.
Right. And so it is different than being a player, because it's probably a little more similar for a coach, because our coaches have to go through the USA Hockey Coaching Education Program. our officiating program is called the Officiating Education Program. And what USA Hockey does is really educate officials to get them on the ice. And so you are going to have to create a login, and it kind of walks you through step by step, because as part of that process, you're going to register. And what do I register as? I've already, we've all talked about levels, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 12. I'm new. What do I want to be? I want to be a level 6. I want to be a level 10. Where am I going, Barry? Where do I start? What level am I?
Yeah, so every official starts at a level 1, no matter what. And when we always use go down the path, maybe you've been official many, many years ago, and then unfortunately you've given up, but you always come back at a level 1. And we want to get you in there because there's rule changes. There's all a bunch of changes that we want to introduce you to. So, but level 1's the way to go. When you get to games, though, you have a little bit of a balance, because we always look at education and experience at the same time.
No, for sure. So, okay, so I want to register as a level 1. Awesome. I've clicked on it as I'm a level 1 official. All right, now what? What do I have to do? That doesn't get me on the ice, right, Annette? Okay. So and we should also say there's a fee involved. You have to pay USA Hockey some money. The fee to register, no different than that as a player or everything else. So now I've registered as a level 1. I've paid my fee. What are the next steps? What are the steps I actually have to do before they get me on the ice, before they say, pat me on the back and say, go find a whistle and get out on the ice? What do I need to do in that? Or give me a few of them.
So as Barry mentioned before, we need, and what we're doing now in my area is trying to get seminars set up for the next season already. So you're looking for wherever you're going to get your seminar. Now, you don't have to necessarily take your seminar with your local association. It is helpful to take it with your local association because sometimes they share tips and tricks and things that are related to the local area. But it sounds like with the virtual option that you're going to have the opportunity to take a seminar when it's convenient for you, which is a huge benefit for a lot of people, because sometimes that full Saturday session isn't going to work for somebody, but maybe a couple of nights in the evening for a few hours is a better situation for some people. It fits their schedule better. Once that seminar has been scheduled, you get that taken care of. Maybe you're thinking, okay, well, I've got some time until my seminar happens. Maybe I could work on my exam, or I'll work on my modules, because once you registered, your rule book's going to come to you in the mail, so that but you also have this really awesome mobile device in your hand. Most people have one where you can download an app for the rule book, and you can get started as soon as possible, because you can hit up that rule book on your mobile phone. And then the modules are actually a really helpful benefit for a lot of people. Some people do really well looking at videos and seeing examples given to them, and they answer the questions and they keep moving forward with those. But those are the big 3 that I think of right away as things to get taken care of.
Right. And Barry, Annette talked about the exam, modules, and the seminar. So let's break it down a little bit. Talk to me. What's a seminar? What are we doing at a seminar? For a level 1? And I want to make clear, I want to make sure for those of you out there that understand, and Barry will explain what happens at a seminar, whether it's virtual or in person. For all new level 1s, all level 1 officials, there is going to be an in-person component where you're on the ice and you spend some time on the ice. So we'll talk about that as well. Previously, you had to go sit in a classroom for 4, 5, 6 hours. Now you can do that part of it virtually, but there is going to be an ice session that is part of that. So with that, Barry, walk us through, what's a seminar? What do we do? Do I sit there and all people do is yell at us, and so we get practice being yelled at? What goes on at a seminar?
Yeah, no, I get that at home. So no, the seminars it's about a 6-hour component, and like we talked about, it could be partially virtual, could be live, and then there's also going to be the ice component of it. But we'll go through the rule book, and we'll go through positioning, and you'll have instructors who are very well educated, will share their experience with you. They'll talk about positioning. They'll talk about dress code. They'll talk about what to do to prepare yourself. They'll go through each step in order to get yourself ready to then go on the ice part. And then you go through again, you replicate some of the situations, whether it be an icing, learning how to drop a puck. Now, as a player, you see the referee all the time dropping the puck. Well, that's something we teach the officials, how to properly drop the puck, how to make sure that you're backing up and getting out of the way of the play, where to stand on the blue line, where to stand after a goal, who has to report a goal, who has to report a penalty. So we go through a step-by-step curriculum. It's very rigid, and it's to make sure everyone has a really good grounding on what they have to do next. But the ice component usually reinforces everything from the classroom component.
Right. So if I sign up as a brand new official, and yeah, I've played for a number of years, or I've been a parent and watched my child play for a long time, I'm probably not paying attention to the officials that much. So you're going to teach me where to stand, right? You're going to teach me where I need to go. Robert just kind of chimed in here in the chat, and Robert's right. You're going to talk about what are the penalties, how to even make the signals. You're going to talk about Annette, I'm going to guess at the seminars you run, you might stand up with the level ones and practice making signals. Is that right? You do all of those things.
Absolutely. And I have an added bonus that I could say, hey, I am the one in the back of the rule book. So I have that added bonus that I can say, you're going to do exactly what I've already done and demonstrated for you in the back of the rule book. So let's do this together. Yeah. So that's a huge benefit for people that attend my seminars.
No, awesome.
It's Scott, if I may add, so sometimes we'll even break out of the classroom because we don't want to be sitting there and teaching the entire time. We'll go out into the parking lot, and we'll set up like an area for like a rink, and then we'll go through, where you have to stand, what you have to do, how to drop a puck, and then it just reinforces. It's not all classroom, so it's always a combination of everything.
Yeah, no, but when you're especially for those of you, as you go to your level one and then you move up and stuff, and we actually have a question and we'll answer it a little bit about where do I go after level one. The information gets a little bit more complex, a little bit more advanced, but if you're just getting started, which is the topic of today's Zoomcast, you're going to talk about all those things, right? You're going to talk about how to interact with coaches, how to interact with players a little bit, some of those things as well, right? And explain what an offsides is, because maybe not everybody knows what an offsides is.
Even positioning, the biggest thing is, we always talk about, again, as a player, you're like, okay, are there really positions for the official? But absolutely, there are certain positions you have to be after a goal, on the blue line, on the goal line. We always talk about positioning and being able to see, sight lines and be able to kind of see the entire play. So there's a lot that goes into it. And it's more, even the skating, people always say, I can skate. Why do I have to go for the skating session? It's all about now you're an official versus a player.
Right. So you don't have that thing holding you up called a stick. So it's a little different skating without that stick. So Annette, you also talked about modules, right?
Correct.
What's a module, or what are modules?
So modules, the best way for me to kind of explain it is when we were all in virtual learning mode in our various school districts and even in our work environments, modules are opportunities to learn kind of on your own time, watch some videos, listen to people talk through the slides that are related to different positioning, to different situations, to different penalties, there's a lot of components that are covered in the modules, and there's a little bit of selection, a little opportunity for like choice, where you can hone in on something that you want to learn today, and maybe tomorrow you're going to be interested in something else. And there's always questions that go with those modules to make sure you got what you needed to out of those, out of the kind of the teaching online component. And this way it's also uniform across the country. We like to see that we are working as a team. And when we're officials, we are a team together. And so when we're a little bit more on the same page, it makes us look even better.
Yeah. And those modules are 3 to 5 minute movies covering a whole bunch of different topics. And there's, and there are some that everybody has to see and watch, right? And then there are some, what you'd call electives. Is that correct, Barry? Can you, I'm going to put you on the spot, but
Yep.
Can you give me an example of the differences between the two? What might be a required module and what might be an elective?
Well, one of the required ones is all around our safe sport. So we have some mandatory modules you want to watch on there. If there's a rule change year, we have some mandatory modules you want to be able to, we want to make sure that people across the country are getting the same mechanism and understanding the entire process. So that's mandatory. From an optional, you may have a situation about, taking a class on icing or dropping the puck, and there's several of those. What I really like about the modules is that even after you complete them for your accreditation, they're always there and available for you to go back and read throughout the entire season. So if I want to go back and say I want to brush up like a month or two later on my icing call or my offside, you can actually go back into your profile that Annette talked about earlier, and you can go in and then relook at any module that you want.
And that's one of the cool things. So they're fantastic resources for education, and some of the ones, the optional ones or the electives, there's everything from fitness to one on the program I oversee, the Junior Officiating Development Program, to international officiating. There's a lot of neat things in there. So, okay, so we understand a little bit what a seminar is. We understand a little bit what modules are. Talk to me about the test. I hate tests. Annette, I hate tests. What are these tests going to be?
Oh, then you would not like my physics class. We do
No.
tests in there.
No, what goes up must come down. That's it. That's
Perfect.
all I got.
So with the open book test, so I've been reffing for 28 years or officiating for 28 years. And I still every year print off that test. All 28 years I've done this. It was something that was ingrained by people that were like, you should really pass your open book test. There is no reason not to. You get to use the book. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll answer the questions first. Usually they're multiple choice or they're true false. And some of them will even ask you, hey, here's the situation. What's the rule reference? Well, you have to crack the book for that one because you got to go find it. So I go through and I answer those questions first, and then I go back. And even if I know for certain that answer is correct, I still get the rule reference, because you never know who might ask you for that rule reference down the road, or you can impress people and actually cite a rule reference and be like, I know this one really well because it's rule this. So it's really helpful to get you to go into the rule book. Every rule change year, I have to go in even deeper than what the test is asking me, but I do that every single time, no matter what.
It's an open book test for a reason, Scott. So, I mean, you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, how many, officials at level 3, level 4 just want to try to, rip it off from their head. And it's an open book for a reason. And I always tell level 1 officials, read the book, understand it. And if you don't get a passing grade, take it easy, breathe, and you'll be able to get a retest. And I forgot the new requirements. I think it's 7 days. I think you get a new requirement, a new test. So just breathe and just redo it, but use that open book. It's open book for a reason.
So I hate exams, but that makes me feel a little bit better, because from what it sounds like with you guys, the idea isn't to fail officials. Right. The idea is to make sure that the officials, so if you want to be an official, you have to know the rules, because that's part of enforcing the rules of the game. So the idea is to make sure the officials that are taking the exam are learning the rules. It's not to fail them, right? And I can say that, and Barry, I have you beat, because you started 41 years ago. I started 42 years ago. And I still remember I took my first open book exam with USA Hockey as a 12-year-old official, and I didn't open the book because I figured as a player I knew everything. And back then email wasn't even a thought in anybody's head. I got my test sent back to me a few weeks later by the gentleman that graded, and I had failed that exam. And his words were, if you want to be a referee, you have to know the rules. And so the second time around, I opened up the rule book. So, we're not trying at USA Hockey. The purpose isn't to trick officials. The purpose isn't to fail officials. The purpose is for our officials to know the rules.
Sure.
And I think that's a good thing to talk about. So Barry and Annette, we talked about kind of the three components that the majority of our level one new officials are going to have to go with now. And that's also assuming in USA Hockey's statistics show the majority of our new level one officials are younger officials, are under 18 that are still playing. However, if you're a little older and you're a new official, there are two other components that you have to satisfy, two other requirements that must be satisfied. One of them is safe sport, and the other is a background screen. And Barry, do you want to speak a little bit, just very quickly, on what when I talk about safe sport, what that may be, and then Annette, I'll let you talk just a little bit about what the background screening requirements are.
Sure. So safe sport is required by every official, who's 17 and over every year. The first session, I believe, is a 40-minute session, and then they come back with a refresher the following year. That's a 20-minute session. They're all online. They're all modules, and it's just, it's a mandatory requirement from USA Hockey. So it just touches on some interesting topics and something that I think everyone should be aware of from an official, and a player. You should always be aware of safe sport issues.
Yeah, and it covers things like hazing, bullying, things that are very important in our world today, and are requirements not only for officials, but anybody involved in the game of ice hockey, and honestly, anybody involved in any sport that's part of the Olympic movement. And USA Hockey is a member of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, and it's a requirement for everybody involved. And
I will say, Scott, though, if you take it as a player or take it as a coach, it will carry through as an official. So it's not like you have to take it 3 separate times.
Awesome. No, and that's a really good point. Okay, and Annette, just real quick, what are we talking about with our background screens?
So background screens are required for those that are 18 years and older. That they're looking into basically your past real quick and taking a quick check. It's an additional fee. Unfortunately, it is a $30 fee that needs to be paid. If you're a Pennsylvania resident, you will have to do an extra background screen on top of the national one. But if you're from out of the country, Canada, international, there's different fees for those as well. But this is typically done every 2 years.
Right. And once again, this is all about making sure that we're creating a safe environment for everybody involved in the game. And they are extra steps, but a lot of them are required, not just for officials like we've talked about. And, the background screen requires a fee. It doesn't require any time. The safe sport is very important. It requires a little bit of time, but once it's done, then you're doing refreshers every couple of years, and it's not so bad. So, okay. So now I've done all of those things. Do I have to do all of this stuff, Annette, before I can get on the ice as a brand new level one?
Absolutely. Because you won't have your card or your crest before you can step on the ice without them.
And that's important. And what's a crest? I don't even know what a crest is. What's a crest, Barry?
A crest is, I said the word patch once, and it's not, it's a crest that it's on your, right? I know that's looking at me like bad. You got to say the word crest. And it just gives you the air. It just proves that you went through the process and you're accredited and you're certified. And then you're able to go on the ice. You have your full insurance and everything ready to go. The one thing I do want to make sure people know is you have to get a new patch. Every official has to get a new patch every year. So it's not like you get a patch 1 year and you can wait 2 years. You have to be recertified every single year.
No, so the next time, if you're a player and the next time you're on the ice, take a look at the official and you'll probably see something that maybe you've never seen before. And it's the crest on the chest, and it signifies the years that you're registered. And if you're a player and you're out there and you see somebody whose crest says 2011, 2012, you might want to ask them where their 2021, 2022 crest is.
Correct.
Okay, Annette, so now I got my card, I got my crest. I'm ready to referee, right? I own some
Almost.
skates. I own some skates. What else do I
Okay.
need?
Good. At least you have the skates. You're going to want a couple of basic equipment pieces. You're going to want a whistle that can sit on your fingers, not the ones that you see basketball officials wear or a volleyball official. We're looking for the ones that you can wear on your fingers. You're going to want a black helmet and visor. Now, this black helmet could be whatever helmet you can find from somebody. It doesn't have to be HECC approved like you would have for a player helmet. It just needs to be a black helmet ready to go with a half shield visor, ready to rock and roll. And then we really encourage officials, please wear shin guards and elbow pads. They are there for protection. The shin guards don't have to be anything super fancy. I've had fellow officials who have worn soccer shin guards. I've had them wear like volleyball knee pads, like just something there because you're doing face-offs. You can get whacked. It happens.
You will.
Elbow pads are always good to protect for falling. And it doesn't have to be the big bulky ones that you buy as a player. They can be the smaller ones. So there's a lot of flexibility for protective equipment. The other thing that I also like to add is the black pants. They don't always have to be the fancy referee pants. They could be a pair of track warm-ups. I had a friend that would wear their snow pants all the time and it kept them warm. It was great. Snow pants work fabulous. So there's lots of options out there that are cost effective, especially when you're starting out new. It doesn't always have to be the thing that you see all the other officials wear.
Yep. And Barry, I have to wear a visor, right? Like, I think it'd be pretty cool to referee without a visor, right?
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
cool.
people when you was 40 years old, I mean, 40 years, you and I could have probably done that at one point, but now every official has to wear a half shield. So that's why I always recommend 2 helmets. If you're a player, leave your cage on one, right? And get another hockey one, as Annette talked about, another helmet, because you can't get that whistle through the cage. So you need to have a separate with a visor.
Right. And there's a lot of really, and first off, and I think we need to stress this, and you've talked about it, you talked about it already, in that, it does, the reality is it costs a little bit of money to get on the ice. There is a fee with USA Hockey. There are some of those fees associated with it. And the whole idea is to get on the ice, and yeah, you're going to make money, but you don't have to go out and have, especially as a new official, the latest and greatest, newest equipment. And certainly we have some great sponsors, some great people we have relationships with, the Officials Warehouse and other places where you can get all of that stuff. But you know what? If you know somebody that was encouraging you to get into officiating, I bet they have some equipment sitting around. I bet they have an old sweater sitting around, or some pants, or black sweatpants like you talked about. You don't have to break the bank once you're just getting started, right? And do associations like out in Washington State or Barry, in any of your areas, do they have programs where new officials might be able to get stuff through their officials associations?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead, Annette.
Sorry. So in the association that's close to where I live, they offer a bonus for after you've done 5 youth games as an official, that they'll reimburse up to $100 of your purchase during your first year. So a really great incentive to get on the ice and actually work games once you've got all the credentials and all the equipment, to really motivate people to get out there.
Yeah. And Barry, you were going to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. In New England, we have, especially up in New Hampshire, we have a ref swap. So the officials bring other jerseys that they don't use anymore. Maybe they put on a little extra weight, or maybe they just got taller. So they bring them to the New Hampshire seminars, and people, I think for like $10, they can buy a sweater, a referee jersey, or a pair of pants. So we do that as well.
Yeah, no, and that's fantastic. And I think it's important. Everybody wants the latest and greatest everything, but you know what, when you get going, it's okay to not have that. There are a lot of other options. So, all right, because I'm 16 and my mom and dad have been all over me to get a job, and I got that job now. I have my card, I have my crest, I even have my driver's license. So I went and I borrowed a sweater from a buddy and I got all of that stuff. Fantastic. How do I get games? How do those guys on the ice that are officials actually end up on the ice? Like, what do I need to do? I got to start making some money to pay off all of this stuff. Barry, how do I get a game? How do I get games? How do I get on the ice?
So that's a question that's very interesting because it varies dramatically across the country. So you really want to find your assigner in that particular area. So in New England, we have situations where your assigner is right out of the particular rink. And also there are other situations like in Connecticut where we have 5 assigners that are responsible for the entire state. So you want to work with your local referee in chief and contact them, and they will share with you, based on your location, where you live, where the closest either assigner is, the closest rink, depending on who and how they assign those games. And then you'll make that contact, and then you'll start to engage as far as, we'll talk about that a little bit, I guess, in next steps in mentorships, but you definitely want to reach out to your assigner. And again, it varies dramatically. And then I'm sure it's even different for you out in Europe where you are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had people who are moving across country contact me and ask, well, what do I do? Who do I contact? And I almost have now a pre-scripted email that I can send right back out. And these are your people that you contact. If you're living here, this is who you contact. And it, again, just like you said, it varies. I've had people ask about other states, and when I've reached out, I find out it's rink by rink, or it's area by area, or there's adults are this person and youth is this person. So a lot of variation across the nation.
Yeah, I think your RIC is the one to reach out to, whether it be your state art referee in chief or your district referee in chief. They will point you absolutely in the right direction.
So I think this is important because every place is different. And we've talked about seminars and there being a virtual option and things like that. So I would say our recommendation, especially for level 1 new officials, is do a seminar. Even if you want to do a virtual seminar, do one in your local areas. Because my guess is, Barry, and Annette, you as well, when you're running seminars, in-person seminars in your area, especially for level 1s, you're going to help them walk through that process, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We will talk about how to get assignments and go through that process and who the local contacts are based on where they live. What we start to do as well, I see that across the country, is we start to have some websites as well for the officials. So we do have a New England district website, and that identifies all the local referee and chiefs and all the assigners as well. So I think that's where a lot of the districts are going as well there.
Yeah, Annette, anything you want to add about that?
No, it's the same thing, that we're starting to see a lot more movement towards websites to get information out there to the public.
Yeah, and I think you hear about there's a lack of officials. We need more officials. Yet you also hear stories about new officials not getting any games or having a hard time getting games. And one of the things we've learned in USA Hockey in the national office is that's one of the main reasons officials don't come back, is they don't get games. And I know for both of you as referee, a state and a district referee in chief, that's really frustrating to hear that new officials are leaving because they're not getting games. And I guess I'd want you each to speak a little bit about, the term that comes to mind for me is you have to advocate for yourself. And what that means is, as a new official, you have to get your name out there. You have to let these assigners know you're there, right, Barry? And Annette, I'll ask you as well the same question. What do you recommend to an official that maybe isn't getting games but wants to work, and they've done all of those steps we've talked about?
So that's a great question, because I do hear that a lot. But here's the challenge here. If you're a player, and most of the officials are players, your window of opportunity to work games is small. So you're available 9 to 11 on a Saturday because you have games later on that you have to travel, and then 5 to 7 on Sunday. And you don't get a game during those particular times because usually if you're a brand new official, we want to get you into a squirt game, a U10 or a U8 or cross ice, and there's not availability. So then I check. I do have officials reach out to me and say, I haven't received a game in 2 months. And I look and I say, well, you've turned back 22 games because your window of opportunity is only small. So my comment to you is try to open that up as much as you can, because if you're a first year official, we want to slot you in a proper game so you can learn and not be over your head. But you can't tell us you're available 2 hours here and 2 hours here. We don't have a ton of games Monday through Friday, although that's something I've been trying to push for all the leagues to help with the lower numbers of official. All of our games are Saturday and Sunday. So be aware of that and try to open up your availability. And if you are not getting games and you're available, absolutely you should be reaching out to your local assigner or your local refereeing chief.
Annette, anything you want to add to that?
The other component to that also plays a factor is the lack of the upper level officials that can come out and support you while you're doing your first games. We all of us who have been officiating for a while, we want to help the newer officials. We want you to feel successful, and we do not want to put you out on the ice all by yourself on your first game with nobody there to say, yeah, you're doing a great job, keep up the good work. And so sometimes there's a limitation on that too, in some areas where there's just all the upper officials are having to do the upper games and they're not available to support you.
No, and that's important. And that, and we're going to talk about mentoring in a second, but the first thing I want to talk about, Annette, before we kind of get into that next part, and I want to invite, we've had a few questions and comments in the Q&A in the chat. If you're out there watching and there's anything any questions you do have, now's the time to kind of throw them out here as we get a little bit closer to the top of the hour. But Annette, I got my card, I got my crest, I've got my equipment, and you know what? I got my first game. So how do I want to walk into the rink? Talk to me a little bit about how coming to an ice rink as an official might be a little different than coming to an ice rink as a player when I'm walking in with all my buddies and my teammates.
Absolutely. So now you're coming in and you are the one person or the second of a team or the third of a team coming in to work a game. And you actually need to make sure that you're not being affiliated with any of the teams. So you want to come in with no logos. That would be the best suggestion. You want to come in dressed nice because those first impressions last the longest. It is so hard to fix a first impression once it's been created. People look at you and they're like, oh, look at that. They're dressed real nice. They've got their bag. They look ready to go. They're going to be a great official, even though you've never worked a game. But they don't have to know that. Knowing that you look the part, you've got the confidence, you come in ready to rock and roll. They're going to just assume you're going to be great from the get-go. But we want to make sure that they're not going, oh, look at that. They are part of this rink. So they're going to be biased and we're not going to like that. We don't want to create any of those preconceived notions when you're probably just going to be excited that you're there and work your game. So definitely a difference from coming in team ready versus officiating ready.
So I'm playing for the Wilmette Bantam AA team, and now I'm working some games in the Wilmette Ice Arena. You're saying I can't wear my team jacket that I got as a gift at Christmas?
Not when you're coming in to officiate, but please wear that jacket when you go to your games.
Yes, I will. I promise. I wear it everywhere. So Barry, anything you want to add about appearance and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, Annette did a great job. I mean, you really want to be Switzerland, right? You don't want to go in and you don't want to be high-fiving, people, because no matter how good of a job you end up doing, that first, preconceived notion that you're going to be biased believe me, I'll get an email saying that, John was my referee and he was high-fiving the other team and the other coach, and then, we lost by a goal. So it was fixed from the beginning. And officials aren't going in there to see, they don't really care who wins, right? They're trying to be Switzerland. So that first impression, I think, Annette, I think you hit the nail right on the head there.
Yeah, no, and you know what? You don't know until you've been told about those things. And so that's an important topic. And once again, that's something that gets talked about a little bit and in seminars and things like that. And and another way you can learn about those things is through a mentor, through somebody that you look up to. So Annette, talk to me a little bit about mentorship and what a mentor program is, and how do I know if I have one in my area? And we'll kind of get the same thing from the East Coast in a second here, but what's a mentor and why should I care? Because I already got my games.
Right? You're ready to rock and roll.
I am.
So here in the Pacific Northwest, we run a mentoring partnership where we try to get upper level officials to come shadow. And to shadow means that they're going to dress in a black tracksuit and they're going to be on the game with you, and you're going to work the game, and maybe your partner might be a new partner as well. And this shadow is going to come kind of hang out behind you and give you feedback. Hey, move up just a little bit. You can see a little bit better if you stand here. Hey, great first call. I can't believe you called a penalty in your first game. That's amazing. Oh, you didn't catch those numbers. Hey, I've got your numbers for you, but next time watch who has the puck so that you can give them their goal credit. So we're there to encourage you, to really help you find where your position should be. Some of our officials, they need one game with a shadow and they're fine. They're ready to fly. Some of our officials, they need 2 or 3 to feel comfortable and ready to go, because they just need a little more confidence boost before they're ready to do this on their own. And that's okay. We give our feedback back to the scheduler here in my area, and the scheduler will then say, okay, it sounds like they want just a little more, or the official will reach out and say, I'm really still nervous. I need just a little bit more help. And then they'll reach out, they'll send it out to our core group of mentors and say, hey, is anybody available? So-and-so is looking for one more game of shadow. And then they're going to be ready to go.
Got it. And Barry, what about out in New England in terms of, and then I'll talk a little bit about, maybe in the central part of the country where I happen to live. How do you deal with mentoring, and why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, I could take what Annette said. Same thing. We use a mentor, or the third person, and maybe like the first period, the mentor is leading the path and the brand new officials kind of following. And then the second period, we kind of reverse roles, and the mentor becomes a shadow, and we talk after every period. What did you learn? What did you do right? What would you do different? And then the same thing Annette said, at the end of the game, we'll talk about, are you ready for the next game? Do you need another mentor? And we'll do everything up. So we're there to make you succeed. We want you to succeed. We want you to be able to work your own game. And we always try to have a newer official with an older official, just for balance. So you don't want to have 2 brand new officials working a game. We just don't want to go down that path. You put yourself in a bad situation. But the mentor program is almost verbatim what we do on the East Coast as well.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's one of those things, and mentorship is really kind of the magic key to success, because both Barry, Annette, myself, all of us are experienced officials, and I think I'm comfortable in speaking for Barry and Annette. It's not all rosy. There are going to be hard times. Officiating is not easy at times. It's a wonderful, extremely rewarding thing to do, but a mentor can help you through those initial bumps, like Annette talked about. Not only where do I stand and how do I call a penalty and all of that stuff, but man, maybe I called a penalty that wasn't so good and I feel bad about it. And how do I handle that? And and not only on the ice, right, Barry and Annette, but I'm gonna guess, Annette, you talked about your core group of more veteran officials. I bet those officials are willing to share their phone numbers so that newer official, if they have questions, they can reach out, right?
Absolutely. Part of the requirement of being in the mentor program is to then follow up with those officials a few more times, check in with them at least once a month to make sure that they're doing okay and that things are going okay. Did they have any situations that they want to run past them to get some feedback on?
Yeah. And Barry, what do you think? You know, is that another part of your mentor program or what you're trying to do? And I know, you know, you live in Connecticut. The state of Connecticut has a really strong mentor program. And Kevin Redding, the current district or state referee in chief, talks about that. And we even had a whole episode devoted to mentoring. You know, that follow-up after the fact is just as important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's feedback. It's all, you know, again, it's all encouragement, positive feedback. We're not there to knock you down. We want you to get better. So that, you know, that feedback is very important. In Connecticut, we also have an individual who is a level 1 seminar mentor as well. And he sends his email information to every official, every brand new official, that if they have a question about assignments or what to do or where to go, they can reach out to that one person. It's a big thing to do for just one person. So we're trying to expand that a little bit. That's when our level 3s and our level 4s can help out as well. But there's several different options for a mentor in Connecticut.
Yeah. And so Annette, we just got a question in here from an official in Washington, but I think this is a great question that goes to anywhere. You know, this person wants to have somebody shadow them when they're working a game. How do they express that? What do they need to do to try and get a shadow out there on their game? So do you guys know automatically, or what if they, hey, how do I know you're not a mind reader? What are they supposed to do? What should Ann do who asked that question?
So hopefully you can reach out to your scheduler in your area and say, hey, I would really like somebody to come out with me for this 3 official system. I want to learn how to be a lines person or a referee. And I just would like somebody there to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And that's great. The fact that you're reaching out and you're asking for something, it shows true dedication. So it's usually start with your scheduler. And then if they don't have the answer, maybe they can point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Barry, anything different to add from where you're sitting?
No, I'm glad that the individual is willing to speak up, because like you said earlier, Scott, they just sit back, you know, and then they wait the whole season and then they say, I never got an assignment, or I didn't learn this. You know, to me, that's late. I mean, if you run into a situation, we want you to speak up. We want you to be vocal. Hey, I want the games. Hey, I'd like to have a mentor. You know, I want to be evaluated, get to the next level, whatever. You know, with some of it, the onus is on the person as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, you know, as we get a little bit closer here to the top of the hour and kind of into the home stretch, what, you know, as a new official, what are realistic expectations? What's reality versus maybe not reality? You know, should our official expect to work 200 games? What would you say are realistic expectations? And I'm going to ask both of you to answer this question. And I'll start with you, Barry. What are realistic expectations for a new level 1 official that's just getting started?
Yeah, I have to throw out the last year and a half, because COVID really threw a little bit of a curveball in our numbers and things like that. But again, it's all about availability. So, right, if you as a player and you have some availability, but you should be doing, you know, just a couple of games a weekend at the most. I mean, you're not going to be doing, you know, 10, 15 games a weekend. That is just, you know, first of all, you're not going to have the time. You're not going to be able to have a mentor. So I think that's a little bit of an unrealistic expectation. If you can get 5 to 7 games a month your first year, I think that's really good.
Yeah. Annette, how about, what else would you like to add?
Also, don't expect to get the really, really awesome games, like your own level of play as games that you're going to work. You're going to be working the lower levels, which is great, because that's a great opportunity for the younger players to see people that they can look up to, and they might even know you, and they'll be like, oh, so-and-so reffed my game today. It was so cool. I got to see him as an official instead of just a player on the practice before us. That there's a lot of that for adults. Typically, you're going to want to work those lower adult league levels Don't jump into a div 1 if that's the top div right out of the gates. It may not turn out the way that you expect.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I'm hearing from both of you is, realistic expectations. Part of it is understanding that you're new at it and you have to learn before you start going to a level that's going to be too challenging, because ultimately as officials, our goal is to provide a safe and fair environment for the players, and we have to be capable of handling those levels before we do it. And so from you, Barry, I'm hearing don't expect to be working 10 games in a weekend, because you may not have the time, and you also, there may not be the availability of mentors. And for you, Annette, I'm hearing, expect to be working potentially some lower levels, especially if you're a new official. But ultimately, those are both things, and I think you'll agree, that are going to set us all up for success, set that new official up for success. And ultimately, that's what we want, because our officials are going to stick around for a longer period of time. As a new official, you're going to come back. And you know what? Mom and dad have been after you to get a job. This is going to be a much better job, and you're going to make way more money and have way more fun than all of your other friends working at the sporting goods store. So, Barry, as we begin to wrap up here, any final thoughts on this topic?
The only comment is training. So, I think it's important that even when you get your crest, or you go out there, try to look at some opportunities for seminar training, whether it be through the Zoomcast there on a monthly basis. I know in New England, we're going to really push a level 1 virtual Zoom session just for brand new level 1s on what to look for. So really basic things. So always continue to try to get yourself learning as you go down that path.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And Annette, any final thoughts?
We've really talked about so many things today. And just a reminder that there's so many resources out there, like Barry was mentioning. There's also access to the basic, intermediate, and advanced manuals on the USA Hockey website in the resource section under officials. There's also your officiating friends. Those are great resources that they might have even been the reason why you came out and you wanted to sign up in the first place as well. So-and-so on my team's doing it, I should too. So hopefully you've got some people that you've already thought of that you can reach out to, people that you're already talking with about being excited about trying something different and new and trying a different perception of hockey. It really is different to be on the officiating side versus the player side. And then there's so many other resources. There's the Ask the Official that comes out every week along with these Zoomcasts.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. That's fantastic. So, I really want to thank both Barry and Annette. We've covered a lot of ground here today about getting started into officiating. Hopefully we've given those of you that are either thinking about becoming an official or maybe just started out as an official, some ideas about how to kind of move through the process. And this is our second to last episode of our second season of the Officiating Zoomcast. So you should all be able to see now our upcoming schedule. Our 58th and final episode of the Officiating Zoomcast series is going to be 2 weeks from tonight on April 12th. It's going to be You Make the Call live again with BJ Ringrose will be hosting with a couple of outstanding guests. We'll throw up some video clips and talk about judgment and what the call might be. So we look forward to that. We appreciate every single one of you watching at home and taking the time to join us this year. We've had 57 episodes in the last 2 seasons. We're really proud of all of the episodes. If there's, as has been referenced before, if you go onto USA Hockey's Zoomcast webpage, all of our previous episodes are archived, so you can find some great resources in there. So want to thank you again. Thanks to Barry and thanks to Annette for being part of our Zoomcast tonight.
Thank you.
it's national tournament time here at USA Hockey. So we're wrapping up this season and already ready for next year. So thanks so much. Have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.